happened within a family that led a mother to commit such shocking acts with her own son? When you hear the reason behind it, you'll be left stunned. This story is filled with so many unexpected twists and turns that after watching it, you might even forget the biggest Hollywood movies. When Hollywood learned about this real-life story, they even made a movie about it, one that faced massive public backlash. But what really happened in this family that caused a mother to take control over her own son? This story begins in 1922 in Boston, USA, where a girl named Barbara was born into a struggling family. At the time of her birth, her family was going through severe financial hardships. As time passed, Barbara grew up, but when she turned 11, tragedy struck: the death of her father. From then on, all the family responsibilities fell on her mother, Nini. Despite many challenges, Nini somehow managed to take care of the family. Over time, they relocated to New York, where Barbara started her career in modeling. She quickly rose to prominence, eventually being recognized among America's top 10 most beautiful women. This modeling career helped her land appearances in prestigious magazines like Vogue. However, despite her success, Barbara wasn't earning as much as she had hoped. She dreamed of living in a grand mansion and owning luxury cars. When her modeling career didn't bring her the financial success she desired, she decided to try her luck in Hollywood. Barbara moved to California and even managed to get roles in movies. But due to her lack of acting skills, she was soon cast aside. Disheartened, she returned to New York, where fate led her to cross paths with the influential Beckland family, one of the wealthiest families in New York. Before starting the video, if you love your mother, type "I love you, mother" in the comments. If you don't comment, it means you don't love your mother. Barbara started thinking that if she could somehow marry into the wealthy Beckland family, she too would become a rich woman. Slowly she devised a plan and managed to win over Brooks, the son of the Beckland family. Their relationship began, and during this affair, Brooks shared everything with Barbara. But he made one thing very clear: he would never marry her. This left Barbara deeply troubled. Determined to change the situation, she told Brooks that she was pregnant with his child. Hearing this, Brooks panicked. Coming from a high-status family, the idea of a well-known model like Barbara being pregnant with his child could cause a massive scandal. Left with no choice, he married her. However, within just 2 to 3 months of marriage, Brooks discovered that Barbara had lied about the pregnancy. Enraged, he felt betrayed, and from that moment on, cracks started forming in their relationship. Time passed, and in 1945, Barbara actually became pregnant with their first and only son. In August 1946, she gave birth to a boy named Tony Beckland. Even after Tony's birth, Brooks and Barbara's marriage remained strained. By the time Tony turned 10, Brooks was having an affair with another woman. This left Barbara feeling deeply troubled, yet she knew that she had deceived Brooks into marriage in the first place. At this point, she had everything she ever wanted: wealth, luxury cars, and a grand mansion. So, despite her unhappiness, she continued to enjoy the lavish life she had secured. As time went on, Tony grew up, and when he turned 18, he left his family and moved to the UK. There, he started living with friends. It was during this time that Tony first realized he was attracted not to women, but to men. At 18 in the UK, he had his first experience with another man, an encounter that took place when they were alone in their apartment. They made this decision without realizing how deeply it would impact Tony's life in the future. A couple of years passed, and Tony became involved in relationships with other men. Eventually, his father, Brooks, and his mother, Barbara, found out about it. Barbara was extremely distressed upon learning that her son was gay. This led to heated arguments within the family, and Tony was eventually brought back home. His family tried their best to convince him to change, but Tony stood firm, making it clear that he would never be with a woman. His only preference was men. By 1965, the family was struggling with this situation when Barbara came up with an idea. They decided to hire a maid. Though she wasn't meant to be just a housekeeper, her real purpose was to divert Tony's attention and bring him back on the right path. However, despite her many efforts, Tony remained unchanged, staying true to himself. One night, another idea struck Barbara. The next morning, she visited a friend who was facing severe financial difficulties. In exchange for money, the friend agreed to send her 18-year-old daughter, Sylvia, to live with Barbara's family. Barbara gave Sylvia intense instructions. Her job was to somehow change Tony's mind. Sylvia tried everything she could, but Tony refused to be swayed. Frustrated, Barbara resorted to more extreme measures. She started physically punishing her son and tried to forcefully correct him. But Tony remained resolute. Time passed, and Barbara soon realized that bringing Sylvia into their home had been a terrible mistake. The young woman who was supposed to be with Tony had instead started an affair with Barbara's husband, Brooks. When the truth came out, it led to a massive family confrontation. Brooks, unable to handle the situation, left Barbara and took Sylvia with him. He later divorced Barbara and married Sylvia, the very woman who had been brought into their home to fix Tony. Once again, the family was shattered from within. Barbara was left devastated. While trying to control her son's life, she had ended up losing her husband. Meanwhile, Tony became more withdrawn. Filled with anger, Tony's behavior started to spiral. He would throw things around the house, scream in anger, and break down in tears. It was clear he needed counseling, but his mother refused to back down. Instead, she came up with yet another disturbing plan. She called one of her friends over, convinced that if she could change so many men's minds during her modeling days, she could do the same with her own son. Her idea was shocking. She decided to involve Tony and her friend in an act that she believed would fix him. The next day, her friend arrived, and Barbara tried to force Tony into an unsettling situation. But instead of complying, Tony exploded with rage. He pushed both his mother and the man away. Trapped in the locked room, Tony was on one side, while his mother and the man engaged in their disturbing act on the other. This incident left a deep trauma in Tony's mind. A few days later, when Barbara still wouldn't stop pressuring him, Tony snapped. He grabbed a knife from the kitchen and ended his mother's life. When the police arrived at the house, they were shocked by the scene. On one side, Barbara's lifeless body lay on the floor. On the other, Tony sat calmly, placing an order for Chinese food over the phone, completely unfazed by what he had just done. His father, Brooks, was horrified and wanted to ensure Tony would never be released from prison. He even filed a petition against him. But when the case went to court and the judge heard about the traumatic experiences Tony had endured, they made a shocking decision. Tony was released after a short time. After his release, Tony was taken in by his grandmother, Nini. She believed that by bringing him into her home, she could give him a normal life. She was willing to let him do whatever he wanted as long as he stayed with her. But things didn't go as she had hoped. Just 6 days later, Tony became restless. He desperately tried to contact his friend in the UK, but Nini stopped him. This triggered another violent outburst. Tony once again lost control and ended his grandmother's life. By this time, the case had exploded in the media. The next day, something even more chilling happened. A bag was found outside a house. When authorities opened it, they discovered a dead body. After confirmation, all of America was shaken. Inside that bag was Tony himself. To this day, no one knows who ended Tony's life. Was it karma, a mysterious revenge, or something even darker? Now, what do you think? Who was truly responsible for the downfall of this family? Tony, his mother, or his father? Let us know in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe to True Crime Trillies for more such shocking stories.